Aloha, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again. Now that I have my voice back, I'm here with another battle report. This is the first of two I will be putting up. This is my Dark Elves versus the Ogres at 2,500 points. And I want to start off by showing you a couple pics of the new Cauldron of Blood I've been working on. Here it is next to the old one. It's kind of laughable about the size difference. But yeah, I really like this model. The statue up top, I'm kind of working towards a Greek/Roman stone marble statue. So I think I'm pretty satisfied. I'm not the best painter in the world, but I think I'm okay, and this came out pretty okay for me. And then for the rest of the cauldron, I went with what the box had. Like I painted the statue that holds the cauldron of blood, the same type of blues that they did, and yeah, the steps and everything. So it's slightly different colored, but it's the same idea. So I hope you like it, because I like it. So let's hop into the battle report. Alright, so we roll up a mission and the mission's dawn attack. And when I roll up all my units, it ends up that all my units are split evenly on both of my flanks. So that's really going to affect your game plan. A lot of us as list builders, when we build our lists, we build our army around the concept that we're going to have our general be central to our army formation. Everything's going to revolve around this centralized leadership node. So when you get your army split, that can cause things that are problematic. But I'm not going to look at this this issue as far as how I'm going to react in battle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give my opponent the benefit of the doubt that the odds will be with him and that he will get his leadership node centralized. And it's really the only thing I can bet on as far as how his army will be deployed. And a lot of times your leadership node, your bubble, your unit is worth a lot of points. So it's not a bad tactic to go after. So I'm going to deploy at 45-degree angles. I'm going to keep my witches since they have such good damage output on the far flanks. I'll probably win most matchups when it comes to flank battles with my witches versus whatever he has, with maybe the exception of the Thunder Tusk and definitely the Stonehorn. But if I get in those fights, if those units are on his flanks when he deploys, I can always just put my units at such an angle that when he charges in, destroys them, he'll go off the board. The most important thing is they just don't allow them to come back to the center. So let's go ahead and look at my right flank and see how it actually works out for me. So we have on my right flank my Cauldron of Blood, my Spearmen who have the general with them, and then my witches. Now in previous battles I've noticed a lot of times that my Spearmen do get out of my leadership node, and so I've given them the Gleaming Pendant, and I'm probably going to do that going forward. I want them to have a level of autonomy when they're operating, and so I think this is going to work out great. And in this situation, it's good. It's a backup leadership plan in case something goes wrong. Now on the far left flank, you have my Executioners and my witches with the BSB. So the BSB is there to give them rerolls, and not having a general on that side is less of an issue because the witches are immune to psychology, so they're going to get into combat, they're not going to flee, and the Executioners are actually leadership 9 just like the general. So it's not so much that they need the general. So actually when we look at my deployment, both of my flanks are fairly independent and they can operate without one another. But still, I do like to have my army operate in tandem. And so the game plan still will be to converge on the center and have everything hopefully work out. Now meanwhile, I have my Dark Riders here in the center. This is my opponent hasn't deployed yet. My Shades, they're going to keep my opponent honest in the movement phase, and we're going to use my Skirmishers and my Cavalry to slow him down, to keep him from at least just marching in the center and taking all the space. Now that's the game plan. What ends up happening, I can throw that game plan out the window because the odds were against him. His leadership, as you can see here, is actually on the farthest flank. This is his BSP, his general, and an ogre unit backed up with some blood belchers. And then still on the left side is his Stonehorn, who's deployed behind some impassable terrain. Now in the center he does have Noblars, and then his Hunter with cats, and then he has his Thunder Tusk with another unit of Noblars, and then finally his Yetis, which they operate kind of like a poor man's cavalry. The game plan still stands though. I'm going to use my Shades and Fast Cav to engage his center just to keep him in check, keep him honest. My right side will still move up towards the center at the 45-degree angle. My witches are in a great positional matchup against those Yetis because I have the flaming banner on my witches and those Yetis are flammable. But on the left flank, my plan is going to change a little bit. My Executioners and Witches against his Ogre unit is a good matchup, but his Ogre unit is backed up by Lead Belchers, and all it takes is one good round of shooting, and if either one of those units, more specifically if the Executioner unit gets whittled down from shooting, it's not going to be a good matchup, especially when we also consider that the Stonehorn is not too far away from helping either one of those units out. It's just not a good situation. So what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to take an about right face and have them march to the center. And the new plan will be to move my spearmen up at an angle of 45, move my Executioners and Witches towards the center, just a direct march as fast as I can, reform my lines, and engage his army. And hopefully my Witches will engage the Yetis, and that's really the only unit that will threaten my flanks in this new game plan. Everything else will pretty much be coming at me from the front angle. So that's the game plan. Let's hop in and see how it works out. Alright, so this is the last of the movement. I've been showing you the rest already. They go into this forest. It's a blood forest. The forest in front of them is a poison forest, and the last forest is a fear forest, so it doesn't matter. I cast Wild Form on the Dark Riders and Miasma on the Lead Belchers. The blood forest kills 4 spearmen, then it moves to here, and then we go in the shooting phase, and I shoot all my shots at the cats, and I kill one. Now we go to his turn. So at his turn, he's just trying to get around the impassable terrain, trying to form a battle line, because right now he's out of position, and I'm running away from him. Here too, the Stonehorn wants to move around, the Noblars want to move up, and then his Hunter moves into the forest to get in the skirmish war. Everybody else on the right flank, though, as it moves up a little bit more aggressively, the Yetis on the hill are important. We go in the magic phase. He tries to get off Fire Cloak, and he does. I let him so I can dispel Fireball. And then he shoots with his Thunder Tusk and kills 5. And this is what it looks like at the end of his turn. Now going to my turn 2. I stick with the game plan. My Executioners and Witches continue to truck it to the center, staying away from that large unit of Ogres. My Dark Riders move up in front of the Thunder Tusk to keep his movement in check or to flee if he tries to charge. And if the Noblars want to charge me in the flank, I'll flee still, and they'll be in the way of the Thunder Tusk. The center, or the far right, looks like this. My Witches are a little too standoffish. I should have moved them more aggressively, but I didn't want to get charged by the Yetis. But they don't have impact hits, so I shouldn't worry about it. My Spearmen move up to start casting magic, staying out of the Blood Forest. In the magic phase, we get the Miasma off on the Ogres, Lead Belchers, and then we go into the shooting phase, and I shoot off a wound from the Thunder Tusk. Now we go into his turn. It starts his turn 3 with some pretty savvy charges. He declares a charge with his Yetis against my Spearmen, and I didn't see that happening, but he does end up being only 16 inches away from them, just like the Witches, so he needs a 9. He declares a charge, and he gets it. So now my Witches don't see anything but those Noblars, and if he crushes these guys and I fail my break test, then he will have the right side pretty much in his pocket. Then his other good move was, instead of getting in a skirmish war with my 3 units of skirmishers or fast cav, his guy goes on an assassination run, and I guess he's aiming to kill this Death Hag, and that's a pretty good idea too, because he probably would have lost the skirmisher war. I'm outnumbering him 3 units to 1, and I can flee pretty well. His Noblars do to declare a charge against my Dark Riders, and as a result, they get in the way of the Thunder Tusk, so that plan works out. And then on the other side, the Noblars in front of the Stonehorn declare a charge against the Shades, and they too get in the way of the Stonehorn when I flee with my Shades, and they just get in the way. So in the movement phase, he moves the Stonehorn up a little bit more. He moves his Thunder Tusk into the forest, getting ready to shoot, I guess, with him. And then on the left flank, we have the big unit and the Lead Belchers still trying to get into some action. His Gorger comes out of reserves and threatens my flank of the Witches. Not too worried about that, though. Doesn't have an armor save. In the magic phase, he casts Fireball irresistibly, kills a rank +1 of Executioners, and then the miscast result ends up him losing at least 1 Ogre and taking a wound with his, what's it called? Firebelly? I think that's what it's called. So, after magic, we go into combat. Shooting really doesn't do much. So this is what it looks like beforehand. And bam, I reveal my assassin, and it helps me kill an extra Yeti. but he kills a bunch of my spearmen. I fail my fear check, but I get a reroll because of Gleam Pennant, and then I pass my break test, and I pass my reform, and this is what it looks like. Could have been worse, could have been better for him. In the assassination attempt, he fails his fear test, so he's willing to kill 1, and yeah, does a wound through impact hits, but can't hit my Death Hag. I do 2 wounds to him. This is what it looks like on the right side. This is what it looks like on the left side, and now we're going to go into my turn. So I declare a charge with my witches. I'm still caught off guard with that Yeti charge. They're out of position. They're not facing the Yetis. So I charge against the Noblars just to make something happen, but I fail. I probably should have just took the turn to march them into a better place, but I didn't. And then here are my Shades and my my Dark Riders rally, so they're good to go. So we're at the halfway point in the game. The Spearmen are engaged with the Yetis. They're at half strength. We have my witches on the far right, completely out of position, and I have 2 ambushers that are going to cause me some pressure here on my left flank. I'm on the other side of the forest. I figure this is a good time to make a stand. I have the Executioner on the other side of the forest. It's going to protect me from the Lead Belchers, and I'll hold here. If he wants to bring his Ogres in, I'll take it. If he gets close enough, I'll charge him. And then I want to get my witches out from the far flank. They're kind of vulnerable to the ogres. I don't want them engaged. They're a little small to go against that big unit. And the ambusher beside me is a threat. So I make them 3x6 and fit through the little space between the Gorger and the Executioners. And I just want to get the BSB behind there. I'll fight off the ambushers with the witches. And then my Executioners will just face whatever threat comes towards them. In the magic phase, I get wild form on the spearmen. So that's going to help me win that battle. In the shooting phase, I plink a wound off the Thunder Tusk, so that's good. It has 3 wounds left, I think. In the challenge between the Hunter and the Witch Hag, I kill the Hunter. I pursue the cats. I don't catch them, and I also don't run into a unit. I could have used the impact hits, but I fortunately didn't get far enough. And then the combat between the Spearmen and the Yetis, I kill a bunch of them. I think a few remain. I test a restrain. I fail. I pursue, and I run in front of my witches. They're just not meant to get engaged with anybody. The Ogre player starts his turn with a handful of charges. The Noblars charge my Dark Riders. I flee. His Gorger declares a charge against the rear of my witches. I'm so not concerned with the Gorger against my witches that I don't care that he's charging my rear and I have no ranks. It's just he has no armor save. I have a ton of attacks and I'm poison. It's just a bad matchup for him. So I don't care. I feel like I'm going to kill him. His Thunder Tusk declares a charge against my Cauldron, which ends up being in my flank, and he makes it very easily. So that could be bad for me. His cats continue to run. His Stonehorn moves around his Noblars, and then his Ogre unit moves up to the trees. Maybe a little bit of a mistake here, but he moves them as close as he can. Then his Lead Belchers move up to get ready to shoot. And his Gorger moves to breathe his nasty breath all over my BSB. We go into combat. Magic and shooting don't do anything really. We go into combat. I move my BSB up to the rear and to engage his Gorger, and I kill him. I mean, the BSB has a ton of attacks. She has 2 girls next to her, and they just poison him to death. And surprisingly enough, my my Cauldron of Blood just kills the Thunder Tusk before he gets to strike or anything. I lose all his strikes first, but I still strike at high initiative and kill it. This unfortunately breaks the Noblars on the left and breaks the Noblars on the right, so his whole center is gone. And yep, this is what it looks like at the beginning of my next turn, and I go ahead and I'm going to declare a charge of the Witches and the Executioners against the Ogres. Both the Witches and the Executioners make the charge, so that's going to be going pretty well for me. The Cauldron of Blood declares a charge against the Noblars. They flee. And then I move my Witches up to be in a better position to charge the Noblars if they rally. This is where I prepare for the double flee that I made that video for, so here's where it starts, that rules argument. And then the Curse of Anahir I cast in the Ogres versus Executioners and Witches battle to tip in my favor. Going to combat, I kill the Firebelly. I kill a couple Ogres. He kills a couple Executioners and Witches. I end up winning with the -1 in his leadership. He breaks, and I run him down. So yeah, but now I'm in the face of those lead belchers, and I fully expect not to have any executioners after this. So my opponent starts with a charge with his Stonehorn against my front shades, and they flee behind the Dark Riders and the other shades. And then my Dark Riders flee after he redirects into them. I feel kind of bad that I'm doing this because I do have the game pretty much locked up. But that Stonehorn can do a lot of damage to the Cauldron, and I just don't want to lose 300 plus points right now. His Gorger charges the back of the Executioners and fails. And his Nobblers continue to flee. His cats flee off the board, and that other unit of Nobblars also flees off the board. So nothing left on the right. He gets ready to shoot with his lead belchers, takes aim, shoves all those pitchforks and things in the cannon, and he just rolls abysmal. He only kills like 5 guys, and we go into my turn. I turn my witches to face the combat, but I don't expect them actually to do anything. I also declare a charge with my executioners at them, and you can see here that they easily make it. My Dark Riders and my Shades rally. The Shades, being skirmishers, stay where they are, and then my other Shades who didn't do anything last turn moved up in front of the Stonehorn, and my Dark Riders moved there. And yeah, that's where the argument started after that, because then my opponent was like, wait, you can do that every time? You can do that infinitely if you keep on doing that? Now, to be fair, I was so wrapped up in trying to convince my opponent that you could do this that I made the very big and very, I mean, this would change everything, mistake of not taking the leadership test as I fled through them. If I fail those leaderships, then I'm kind of screwed. He's going to run something down. But yeah, I got caught up in trying to explain that that's what you could do, that I neglected to do the negative repercussions of doing such a move. So yeah, I apologize to my opponent, but I guarantee you going forward that will never be forgotten. So yeah, in the movement phase, my Cauldron Blood moves out of anybody's charge arc. In the magic phase, my Asthma goes off on these guys, and then the Stonehorn gets a wound shot off it. When we go to combat, despite having miasma, he kills a couple guys and he stomps my sorceress, my level 1 sorceress, to death. So I win combat. He tests. He is not steadfast anymore. He breaks, runs off the board. I pursue, and that's pretty much the end of the game. We don't even do his turn 5. All he's left is a Stonehorn, and he's going to fail charge. So these next pictures that you'll see are from a previous game. I was playing against Lizardman, Blood and Glory. I try to match him across the board, and he just has way more maneuverability and way more units, so he was able to crush me. He just outmaneuvered me. You can't match somebody like that across the board. You gotta sit heavy on one side. As far as this game against the Ogres, something I learned that I don't plan ahead all the time when it comes to unit facing, and I think that showed a lot over on the right side with my witches. They were always consistently out of position. And that's because I don't plan ahead as far as which way I should face them. And if I don't work on that, I'm going to end up with a lot of units just blowing in the wind. So I need to work on it, and I'm glad I got to learn. So my thoughts on my game plan, I executed it. Like, that does not happen very often. I came up with a game plan in the beginning, and I followed through all the way to the end. I kept my left flank out of the fight. I didn't allow my army to get mismatched. I avoided the fight until I was ready to engage. On the right side, I moved at that angle, moving steadily towards the center, engaging his units as they came in. And you know, I have to say that's what really probably tipped this game into my favor, was sticking to the game plan. As far as some specific aspects of this game that I like to talk about, there's the lore of beasts that I think played a very important role in this game. I've been finding in these last 2 games, it's only been 2, the lore of beasts is a terrific lore if you run your army along the lines that I run my army, which is fairly character heavy. I run 2 death hags, 2 sorceresses, and an assassin. So there are a lot of targets out there for the lore of beasts to supplement. And when we talk about my characters, when we talk about maybe the death hags or the assassins, they are supplements to the units that they work with. They increase the fighting output, the damage output, and you can just increase that output a lot with the lore of beasts. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, I'm not stating anything groundbreaking. But if it's just something, if you haven't considered, well, here you go. This is something you can consider. The stats on a Dark Elf are already terrific. Where they lack is in strength and toughness. And guess what? The lower beast helps supplement that part of your character. So, finally, what I like to talk about is the Cauldron of Blood. Now, I've been running the Cauldron of Blood as the unit modifier that you can use it as. Putting it in a unit of witches, giving them the 5+ save, and you know that's great. But when you do that, and if you're not running hordes like I do, and I think even if you run them as hordes, you might want to consider this. You're taking some of the more flexible aspects of the Cauldron away from it. You're taking away the swift stride from it. And I feel that it's a chariot, and you should really have that capacity in your toolbox. And if you put it in a unit, you kind of take that away from yourself. I think if you run the Cauldron Blood, more along the lines that Empire runs its 2 chariots as a chariot that just benefits surrounding units, and then at a flip of the switch, sorry about that cliche, but you know, as an in-the-moment reaction to anything that's going on in the battlefield, use it in the capacity as a chariot. I think you'll get a lot out of it. You want to use the swift stride, you want to use the impact hits, and I think if you keep it separate from units, even though you're taking away that invulnerable save from any unit that you would put it in, I think that flexibility you get from it far outweighs that cost. So you know, I'm going to go forward. I'm just making this based off of one game, but you know, I just get the sense of it already. But I'll go forward. I'm going to use it some more and see how my opponents react to it being used as an individual chariot, and I'll report back. So I hope you appreciate this. I hope you're enjoying it at least. Please like, comment, and if you feel like subscribing, I appreciate that too. Thank you for watching, and I'll post the points somewhere on here too. Bye.